Alright, so let's get January 1984 rolling with tennis. This was in fact the only game released in January. Now one thing you may have noticed here is Nintendo is sort of trying to go for like a house style with their title screens. They all look pretty much the same. They have like a very simple logo, a couple different play options, the copyright Nintendo against a black background. Usually a short little musical tune will be playing. Eventually they would get a bit more creative, but for the time being this is sort of like the look that they were going for. Also, the Famicom box art had a very similar feel to it as well. All the box art kind of looked the same. So anyway, here we have tennis, which is obviously based on the real-life game of tennis. Now I've got to confess, I usually don't really like video games based around tennis. I guess part of the problem is that, you have to sort of depict a 3D reality, a ball moving towards you, in a two-dimensional video game, which is really not that easy, especially back at this time. But here, Nintendo does manage to do a pretty admirable job. They've depicted the tennis court from top-down perspective, but it's sort of slightly angled. There's a bit of perspective in the court. For the tennis ball, they actually use several different sprites, so it gets bigger as it comes towards you, and as it recedes, it just becomes a tiny dot. There's also a shadow on the ball, which gives you some assistance in determining how high off the ground the ball is. And the shadow also gets smaller and larger. So from a strictly technical perspective, the game is pretty impressive in the way it tries to depict a ball moving back and forth in space. Now something else interesting here, the referee looks a lot like Mario. Well, he's a little short guy with a mustache. He's not dressed like Mario, but this does appear to be Mario's first kind of cameo appearance in a sports game. Nintendo would later go on to put him in all their golf games. So it appears even at this early stage, Mario was essentially the Nintendo mascot. The game plays pretty simply. Move your figure back and forth using the D-pad. Use the button to swing. If you hit the button like hard or softly, that'll sort of control the strength of the swing just a bit. The title screen allows you to select the difficulty option. Back then, video games had a whole lot of difficulty options. I mean, they still do nowadays, but in the days of the 2600, for example, there are always like 50 different options on every video game. So while tennis isn't exactly fantastic, it still plays pretty good, and I'd say it's a lot better than some of the other third-party tennis games that would eventually come out for the system.